Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to go through some absolutely crushed MCU 9.8 comic books to invest in. And, these ones are great books, though. I'm not going to cover like a Young Avengers #1 or a Hawkeye #1 or anything like that. I think these books kind of stood on their own before all the MCU movie hype. And, we're on the other side of that now. The market is kind of cooling down. So I think you can absolutely consider these ones for your collection. So let's have a look here. The first one is a Avengers 181. The first appearance of Scott Lang on this one. An awesome cover by George Perez and Terry Austin, two of my favorite artists of the era. If you like a lot going on with a ton of covers and heroes on the cover like I do, this one is one to love for sure. So pretty great collector item. 226 9.8s in a blue label, a 1 of 226. 12.8% of all graded copies sent to CGC end up being 9.8s. So some recent prices on this one, and all these books too I have on the list, so I can kind of comment on when I bought them and how much I paid for them and stuff like that. But recent prices: $289.99, $310. And saw another one sell. These were all eBay sales for $349.99. So Avengers 181 under 300. I think that $289.99 is pretty much a great buy. So for mine, I paid $350. Yeah, it was $349.99. And I remember at the time, it wasn't like the best price. I remember seeing some go right around the $300 level back then. But I had a pretty good centering on mine, and I just thought, what's the extra $50? It's kind of hard to find. There's only 226 out there. Sometimes, one of these won't pop up for a real fair value for quite a long time. So I just ended up pulling the trigger at $350. But I think right now, on the other end of a lot of the MCU hype, at that, under $300, let's call it, I think is a price to aim for on an Avengers 181 in a 9.8 white page. Is looking great. Okay, next one is, one I do have too. Brought it out this morning, an Incredible Hulk 271. Yeah, just a great cover on this one. It's the first comic book appearance of the Rocket Raccoon with a kind of a funny cover with the dialogue on the cover. But always really like this one. There's 452 9.8s in the blue label. Yeah, I do got the newsstand luckily too, yeah. This one I did buy in Canada. It was pretty much pre-pandemic. Yeah, this was a pretty solid buy pre-pandemic for myself. But a 1 of 452, pretty great for how popular Rocket Raccoon has become. 10.1%, the 9.8 ratio, which is pretty solid. And kind of having some tough time finding some recent prices on this one. One did sell on eBay for $850 or best offer in a direct edition. So, or best offer. So I think this one's probably going right around $600. I think is a good deal. Maybe it looks great. You think about paying a little up to $700, a little closer to $700. Maybe you get the greatest deal ever and you get into the 500s on under $600 on this one. I think might be doable. Yeah, I think, it was quite a long time ago. I think it might have been last year, but I'm pretty sure I saw one of these go in the 500s in a direct edition. So that still might be possible. But this one has cooled down a lot. Like during the pandemic, 1,500, even it might have touched 2,000 there, even in the direct editions. The newsstands definitely hit 2,000. I think a newsstand you're probably looking about 800 to 900 right now. With the directs, let's say a good deal would be around $600 for an Incredible Hulk 271. Yeah, you almost can't go wrong with any Incredible Hulk big key issue. Just the classic trade dress is just so awesome. And big first appearance on this one. That's cooling down post MCU movies. So I think, an Incredible Hulk 271, right around $600 is a pretty great value right now. Okay, next one is a Guardians of the Galaxy #1 from 2008. This is the first full appearance of the new team, Guardians of the Galaxy, that was in the MCU. This one's a pretty great 9.8 for a modern comic. For coming out after the year 2000, 2008, this one came out. There's 252 9.8s in a blue label. And 23.4% is the 9.8 ratio, which is really good for like a modern comic book, like one that came out after the year 2000. A new modern comic book, I would call them. 23.4% of all graded copies are 9.8s. Usually in this era, it's like 40 to 50% of all the graded copies. Sometimes it's even over 50%. So the lower the better with the ratios, the kind of tougher it is in a 9.8. So, you know, this one, yeah, it went on a good ride during the pandemic too. I think they were probably about 600 to 700 at one point. So right now, having a little bit of trouble finding some completed listings, but I did see one sell for $349.99. That was about a month ago. So I think, you know, that Guardians movie sort of, you know, came out not too long ago. But there's one on eBay right now for $329.99 or best offer. So I actually think probably with the market cooling down here, like 250 is probably doable right in that area on this one. And if you're a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, I think this one's totally worth it, around $250 with it really being a tough 9.8. Like, you know, specifically in the 9.8 comics, it's worth it around $250 because you just don't see that. Yeah, 23.4% of all graded copies are 9.8. A 1 of 252. Yeah, this is a tough 9.8 for a new modern comic. And yeah, hopefully you can, like, anywhere under 300, you know, closer to 250, I think is a really good deal on this one. And I have two of these in a 9.8. I bought one. One was like 170, and I think the other was about 200, maybe a little bit over 200. I think I just ended up paying up a little bit for that one at the time. And this was sort of right as the pandemic was kind of getting going in 2020. I would have bought these, so I don't think things took off too much. Yeah, I think right now it's a good 9.8. Yeah, certainly cooling down from those pandemic prices of like 600 to 700. So if you can get one around 250, great. 329 OBO on eBay right now, with one selling a month ago for $349.99. That might be you know, one to get a pretty good deal on if you're a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan. But yeah, let's say anywhere under 300 for Guardians of the Galaxy #1 from 2008, the first full MCU appearance of Guardians of the Galaxy. Really cool cover too on this one as well. Okay, next one is I think this one's actually kind of hanging in there. It's I do have this one as well. It's Marvel Spotlight version 2 #6. It's the origin and first appearance of Star-Lord. Really cool cover as well on this one, and a great collector item. Yeah, even when I purchased this one, there was less than 100 9.8s. I thought, wow, that's a pretty great collector item. Nowadays, 108 9.8s in a blue label, still looking pretty awesome on the census. 10.9%, the 9.8 ratio. So on eBay, one had sold for $599.99. Yeah, this one does seem to be hanging in there a little bit more. I think, you know, during the pandemic, this one might have got up to 800 or 900. Maybe one sold for around 1,000 for a minute there, but $599 is doing okay. I purchased mine in 2020, kind of as the pandemic was getting going, and it was $230. Yeah, $230. I thought it was a pretty good deal at the time. I think that was right around the fair value at that time. You know, the pandemic really heated up. This one heated up as well. I made a few videos on it. That probably didn't help it. But so $599 right now, I feel like that's a little bit of an overpay. I actually think this one, you know, the market's cooling down right now. We're on the other end of the Guardians movies. I think you can get this one a little closer to 400. So, you know, 425 I think would be a decent price to aim for. And yeah, again for this one, with that $599 price, I think it was about a month or two ago on eBay. Just looking up some completed listings this morning, I saw that one. But yeah, I think you could do a little bit better on this one right now. And I feel like in the last year I saw them go in the 400s. So I'm not sure if you'd want to get up to $599 on this one. But yeah, let's call it like 400 to 450. I think would be a pretty good value. Yeah, too bad it didn't. If you know, if someone's got the GPA app out there or something, maybe, you know, let us know of some recent sales on the Marvel Spotlight version 2 #6 and a 9.8. But yeah, I think 400 to 450 is a pretty good value on this one with a great cover. And first comic book appearance of Star-Lord. There's the, what is it, the Marvel preview number 4, I believe. That's the magazine overall first appearance of Star-Lord. I think that one's right around $2,000 in a 9.8. That is kind of the one to get, but it's a magazine. And it came out in the 70s, but this is the first comic book appearance of Star-Lord with the origin and the great cover. Yeah, and really kind of hanging in there, I would say. I think I sort of expected this one to maybe be a little closer to that price that I paid, $230 at the beginning of the pandemic, but this one's kind of well above the sort of early pandemic prices, which is nice to see. So yeah, Marvel Spotlight version 2, number 6 in a 9.8. You can consider that one, I think, right now. Cooling down one for sure. And last one here is a Silver Surfer 44 in a 9.8. I really like this one. First appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet. I have 2 of these in the direct edition, and a recent sale on this one, a cooling down price, $212 I saw one sell for. I bought one of mine. It was pretty much like a few months after the Avengers Endgame was out in the theaters, so they were still kind of heated up. One of them was like $230, and that was the one after the Endgame I bought. About a year later, I bought another one in a direct edition for like $155, and this was just kind of pre-pandemic, probably late 2019, I think it was. So, $155 was sort of the solid fair value before the pandemic. Yeah, this one did okay during the pandemic. I think it got up to about 400 or so. It's a pretty solid collector item for an early 90s 9.8 though. 384 9.8s in a blue label. A 1 of 384 is pretty great. 20% the 9.8 ratio, which is pretty decent for an early 90s book that, it's not like a New Mutants 98 where there's like 3,000 of them. Because the New Mutants 98 I think is kind of like a 18 or 17% is the 9.8 ratio. But there's so many of them graded. This one, not very many graded, but still a really good ratio. So this one kind of stuck out to me as a solid early 90s 9.8. And you know what, right now, especially if you were really into the Avengers movies like me and just thought the Infinity Gauntlet was so cool, this being the first appearance, I think right around this $212 recent price, I think Silver Surfer 44 in the 9.8 is totally worth it, around $212. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Just 5 books here that, again, I wanted to keep them really solid key issues. I didn't want to talk about all these modern books like, even that, like the Sam Wilson becomes Captain America kind of comes to mind. Like there's a lot of these modern books that really heated up during the pandemic because they had MCU shows or something like that, and now I almost don't even feel like they're worth it to get in there. But these ones, most of them are from the 1980s and a couple from one from the 70s, I guess. And even that Guardians of the Galaxy, even though it's a newer one, it's like a really solid high grade 9.8 for a book that came out after the year 2000. So these are solid MCU ones I think you could absolutely consider adding to the collection right now. Okay, we'll leave it at that though. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.